welcome to First and Filoni. This is the week 11 edition, I believe. Let me double check. As always, I'm your host, Donovan Filoni. Joining me, the man himself, Mr. Andrew Cooper. How's it going, buddy?
What's up, dude?
All right. Well, let's just get right into it. I know we're recording on Tuesdays again. We delayed it a little bit to potentially get the ratings for the college football playoffs. So at some point in the show, we will talk about them. But until then, let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, the biggest game of the year, the number one in the AP versus number one in college football playoffs, played last week in a rainstorm down in Georgia, and Georgia just reminds us how good they really are. What were your thoughts on the game?
I had high hopes for Tennessee, man, but it just goes to show Georgia's defense has never left. I mean, it's just bottom line, man. They were tough. They played really well. Tennessee couldn't get anything going.
They had like 7 people go to the draft last year, and they just reloaded, and their defense is still amazing. I think the
Oh
rain
yeah.
might have had a little bit to do with it. I mean, it looked pretty bad in the second half, but I agree. Georgia's just a powerhouse, man. Like they're so dominant. Stetson Bennett looked pretty good. The tight ends, the trio of the tight ends at Georgia are they're reminding you of the old
Oh man.
Patriots teams.
Those kids can flat out ball.
Yeah. So the question I have for you then, since Tennessee lost, do you still see them getting into the playoff?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
If
I'm with you as
they
well. I don't think
if
I
they
think
win
Bama's
out,
completely out of it.
yeah, I mean, in my opinion, Bama is pretty much done.
Well, they can lose. They can lose the West. LSU and Ole Miss have a shot at it.
Yeah, I think Bama's got what Ole Miss this weekend.
Yeah, they got Ole, and I don't know if it's a trap game or not because I never would have thought that they would have lost to LSU the way that they did. But it was Death Valley. Remember, I said night games at Death Valley or something different.
Yeah,
But
but I know everybody. I know we're not too keen on Brian Kelly, but I think he's finally got the players believing
yeah,
in themselves. So I mean, it's kind of hard
he's
to go
turned it
against that.
around.
Yeah, but I will say this: if Bama does not get into the playoffs, they will win it all next year. Because didn't this happen like 2 years ago? They had two losses, they were kept out of the playoffs, and they came back and won.
Yeah, something like that. And that actually is a great segue, kind of leads to my next question is did we see two dynasties end this weekend? Did we see Clemson's dynasty end and did we see Bama's dynasty end? Which was a worse loss, Bama's second loss or Clemson's first?
I'm going to say Bama's second loss because I knew Clemson was going to run out of luck. They finally, dude. Everybody can say what they want. I have nothing against Clemson. I think they represent the ACC well every year, but the way that they've been squeaking by, they don't. To me, I just
Yeah.
in the first first couple weeks, man, DJ looked good, played some good teams, but I mean, eventually your luck's going to run out.
Right. No, and this is where you and I are going to actually disagree. I think it's a uh bigger downfall for Clemson losing. And the only reason is because they did not look good last year. They barely looked good the year before. The only reason they did was because of Lawrence. So it's just one of those they haven't gotten anybody in the transfer portal. You can't name a receiver that they have in their offense, and if you can name one, he's not a top in the ACC even. So I would say
I
it's
mean,
more detrimental to
they got
Clemson.
Ngata, and they got Bo Collins, but I mean, still, I mean it.
Like I said, I could probably name a couple more in the ACC that would be right up there with them. They're good receivers. Don't get me wrong, but they're not up to the Clemsons of the world, the Martavius Bryants, the Sammy Watkins, the Hopkins, the list just goes on and on and on of the playmakers that came out of Clemson. It looks like they dropped all the way to number 10. Just some notes. Texas is up to 18, NC State's at 16, Notre Dame's at 20, Tulane's at 17. I've been riding high on the green wave this year. They're a fun team to watch. If you guys haven't watched Tulane play, they're really, really fun to watch, just like the old Tulane teams. All right. Well, the next thing that we have here, actually looks like the playoffs just dropped. Looks like we have number 1 Georgia, 2 Ohio State, 3 Michigan and 4 TCU, with Tennessee at 5 and Oregon at 6. I think that's fair. I don't like TCU being that high because, once again, their win last week, they injured another quarterback, so they can't win with an opponent starting quarterback in. Ohio State and Michigan 2-3. That's going to cancel each other out because their resumes are trash.
Really and truly, I think Michigan should be ahead of Ohio State. I mean, look what Ohio
The
State did
way
against Northwestern.
Right, and although Michigan hasn't played anybody besides Penn State, that's the only thing that you can kind of compare them to against, right? And
Yeah.
Michigan blew out Penn State. Ohio State, the score doesn't tell it, but Ohio
No,
State
but
played that game a lot closer.
yeah.
So I like Oregon at 6, actually, because I'm very high on Bo Nix ever since that first loss of the season, when we both of us, or at least I was trashing Oregon like crazy. They're playing really well, and they're getting really, really hot at the right time. Any other thoughts? You think anybody else should be up there? Is Tennessee too high? Is Clemson dropping back down to 10? Is that bad? Is that,
No, I mean, I expected Tennessee to fall out of the top 4.
yeah.
I mean, I figured they would end up at 5. I didn't see Clemson.
I didn't see him
Well,
drop all the
I
way
mean,
to
they did
10.
get spanked pretty bad.
Yeah.
I
I
could
didn't
have
see him
saw
drop
them
all the
in
way
like
to
the 8
10.
spot, 7
Yeah.
spot.
7 or 8,
Yeah.
right outside the top 6. Um,
I
I
mean,
guess the
hell,
reason why
look at
it makes
Texas.
sense.
Look at Texas, not even ranked, and they win another game, and they're
Yeah.
6-3, and they're what, like 17, 18?
They're 6. Yeah, they were 18. They're 24 in the AP poll. So when I go, just a little back story for the people at home. When I pick the games, I pick them on Sunday, and I usually send them Sunday or Monday to Andrew, so we have a day or so to kind of look at them. But by then, the Texas TCU game, it wasn't ranked at the time. They're 6-3, number 24 in the AP. I didn't put that game on here, but it is one game I wanted to talk about because I think this is a trap game for TCU. This is for TCU's chance to nut up or shut up. Like, if they lose this game, the Big 12 is back to being wide open. Do you have any thoughts on that? I know it's not a game that we picked, but
Well, I mean,
it's going to be a good game. I think it's
oh
at
yeah, I
Texas
mean,
too.
yeah, I got Texas winning that one. I mean, if they
They're
play like they did last week, I mean, TCU, like I
there's
said,
they're
TCU
7-point
gets down.
favorites.
TCU gets down too early, and then they got to fight back.
Yeah.
It's
I
another
think
team,
if Quinn
kind of like
Ewers can
Clemson.
stay healthy, then Texas should win this game easily.
No, without a doubt.
So, all right. And then 2 more things before we get into the game picks. First of all, we'll save the best for last of these 5 options. But the next one is, should Jimbo be fired? As of right now, when we brought it up 2 weeks ago, Texas A&M has lost 2 more games, and he has a worse record than Kevin Sumlin. Kevin Sumlin had a higher ranking overall, like he was up to number 5. Jimbo's only been up to number 6. Kevin has a better record and was paid half as much money as Jimbo. Would you fire Jimbo at the end of the year? Is that the next coach that's going to be fired, or who is the next coach going to be fired?
I don't see him firing him. I think he's definitely going to be on the hot seat, and if he loses 2 or 3 next year, he's definitely gone.
Yeah, I think this season's going to be a wash. I think you're right, but if he does this next year, I don't see them winning I don't see him going to a bowl game. They got Arkansas left, who Arkansas is not bad. They got a couple other teams left. I'll let you finish your thought while I look that up. But
yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't see him getting rid of him this year, but I think he's well aware that at the end of the year, regardless of how it turns out, he's going to be on the hot seat. You know, you can't be at a program like that with the fan base and all the donors and all that and just play mediocre football. I mean, they expect to win and they want to win.
So the 3 games they have left, I misspoke. The 3 games they have left is Auburn, which they're both 3-6. That's actually one of the games that we're picking this week, I believe. Oh, no, it's not. That's one of my locks of the week. And Cadillac Williams has those boys buzzing down in Auburn. Then they got UMass, which will be a win. That'll put them potentially they have to win out to get a bowl game, and then LSU at the end of the season. So they have to get the 6 wins, and I think one of those games is a lock, if not two. I think Auburn's going to
Oh
beat
yeah, I
them.
don't.
I'm going to go out and say it right now. I think Auburn has a chance. The way they played last week, I think Auburn has a chance. It's
I
at
did
Auburn
last
too.
week, without
It's
a doubt.
it's at Auburn.
Yeah.
So, and then the last thing here before we get to our game picks, guys, is it looks like, is this too early to say? Is NC State back? MJ Morris is slinging
No.
that ball. They look like a whole new team.
Yeah, kid.
Like Devin
Man, I'm gonna
Leary's
tell
good and
you,
all, but MJ
the
Morris
only
just
thing.
is looking so good for them right now.
Well, he's got one thing going for him, but Devin Leary doesn't, and that's can scramble. So I mean, when you get in the RPO
Yep.
back, you got to respect his legs.
And
Offensive line played really well last week.
who won last week? I forget.
Yes, NC State. Yeah.
You and Libby both. Libby
I
messaged
like the
me on
kid, man.
Instagram, was like, I can't believe you picked NC State. I said, watch, they're gonna win and they're gonna win big, and they won by 9.
Yeah, I was impressed, man. They look good. The only thing with MJ is he has to settle down within like the first 2 drives.
Yeah.
Defense stays more on the field than the offense, which is relatively it's going to end up killing us against Carolina.
It's the running back issue. It's the running back issue.
We can't. Jordan
Either
Hughes
play that Mims kid who's pretty good, or let Duma or what's his name, Dumo, take most of the reps. Houston is he's not
I'd like
there.
to see. No, he runs hard. I mean, but he just like I said, you bump him.
That Mims kid
down.
runs hard. You want to see a
Yeah.
power back? That dude will run you over.
I tell you, who else ran the ball really well last week too was Allen. He was another.
They got a couple
freshman.
good young guys. They just they can't get a run game going because they don't let a running back get in the groove.
Yeah, I can tell you what, though, man. If MJ stays healthy, I think
MJ,
I'd like to see him run, but I mean, I think Tim Beck's kind of forcing the issue with him running.
Yeah,
but I mean, the kid can throw the ball. You get him in a rhythm. He can throw.
Yeah,
it.
after
He's
that
not,
first
he's not
game,
scared.
once he stopped throwing behind the
shot.
people. Yeah, once he
he's
stopped
not scared
throwing,
to take a shot.
and he's got a cannon for somebody that young. Like he has a cannon.
Oh, he can
So
throw
I know you were probably excited. I know didn't get a chance to talk to you over the weekend, but I
the big thing that helped us in that game, man, was we had 3 defensive turnovers. I mean, 3 turnovers.
Well, your defense is good, and that's what's always going to help you. So, and we left them off this week. They're playing Boston College. They should win that easily, and then get ready for the UNC games coming up. UNC and Louisville, right?
Yeah, we got Louisville and UNC, but like I said, Boston
It's at
College.
Chapel Hill too.
Yeah, unfortunately. Boston College, man, they played Duke really well last week. So, like I said, NC State has a tendency to lose the games they're supposed to win. So
that's just something to think about for next week. We can start going over our biggest disappointments, and Boston College might be up there for me because I really thought they were going to do a lot better with their quarterback. But what do I know? So. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into these games here. Overall records right now. Rough week last week for you, man. You were 4-6 last week, bringing your overall record to 65-35. I went 7-3. I'm 71-29 now. My locks are 25-23. Dan went 5-5 last week. Last week was a rough week because the games that we all thought were locks, they lost. Tennessee, the Alabamas. So like those 2 games were pretty big losses for us, for all of us last week, or you would have finished in the positives there. But we'll bounce back this week. The slate this week is a little bit let's learn how to talk. The slate this week is a little bit different. We're gonna try to go and incorporate a little bit more teams with bigger records. So we have a couple games in the American Conference, as well as the Big 12, the SEC, and Big 10. No ACC games, actually. Well, no, we have one ACC game this week as well. So we'll go ahead and start, and we'll go to Cincinnati, Ohio, where it's ECU at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored by 5. This is a surprising line for me. as well as ECU's played. I know they're not like they've couple the better wins are slight, very close games, but they went to a BYU rowdy stadium, which makes me think that Ahlers is going to get the job done. I'm going with ECU here, even though they're 5-point underdogs. It's just 5 points for Cincinnati. I know they're good, but they're not as good as last year.
Yeah,
This is a tough one.
no, it is tough, man, because I do like ECU. I mean, they play hard, but I don't know. If it's at Cincinnati, I think I'm gonna have to take Cincinnati. I don't know. I think this is gonna be a hiccup
Yeah.
for ECU this week, man. I mean,
I'm just
Cincinnati's playing some good ball, but
I'm riding the wave, and the only reason why I'm picking ECU is because they did it already once this year, go to a tough place at BYU and beat them. Cincinnati's probably better than BYU, but I don't know. 5 points is a lot, man. That's all right. All right. Well, I have you down at first, Cincy there. Let's go ahead and stay in the Midwest. We'll go Purdue at Illinois. Illinois is favored by 6.5 points, coming off of a rough loss last week.
Illinois is gonna bounce back this week. I think they're gonna get the running back going. Quarterback DeVito, he's gonna get back on his game. I think Billamer's got something going cooking out there in the
Yeah.
Midwest, so I'm gonna take Illinois.
Yeah, I do too. I think last week was a fluke. Purdue's not that good. That's another disappointment of this year. I thought they would be better, especially the way they played Penn State at the beginning of the year. If it was at Purdue, it might be a little bit different, but at Illinois, it's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. It's not going to be a lot of points scored. I like them there as well. Let's go ahead. Let's go back down south then. A little bit further south than Illinois, not much. We'll go LSU, who's favored by 3 points at Arkansas. Does Brian Kelly get it done and continue his reign to try to beat Nick Saban here?
Yeah, I believe so. Arkansas had a really bad loss to Liberty. I don't know what's going on down
Hugh
there. I don't
Freeze
know.
at Liberty, man. He's a bad guy, but he's doing well there.
He's okay. Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. More power to him. No, he's. I mean, look where he's at. He's at a Christian school. He's trying to find his way.
He just got a 10-year
Um,
contract.
yeah, he'd be smart to stay there. I'm taking
I mean,
LSU on that one.
they'll be in the ACC soon, I would imagine. I mean, why not? They've been a perennial winning record team. It's good publicity right there next to Blacksburg. That'll be a great little. Everything's close. Blacksburg to Raleigh and Durham areas, like that's all within a 4 hour radius. So it just makes sense for them and JMU to make the jump. I'm with you as well. LSU, I don't think they slow down.
I'll tell you what, man, Daniels looked good last week.
He's gotten better. He looked awful.
Yeah.
If you would have told me that they would be right in this position after that Florida State loss, I would have said I would have laughed you out the room. But you're right, Brian. As much as I hate to say it, Brian Kelly's turned that team around, and who knows what'll happen with his family down there, right? Brian, his fake Southern accent. So, okay, so let's go ahead and stay in the SEC. We'll go Bama -12 at Ole Miss. They're in the Grove. I think it's a day game. I don't think it's a night game. I could be wrong there. Bama has lost 2 out of their last 3, right? Is that sound about right or close to that?
Close to
it. Does Nick Saban lose again after a heartbreaker in overtime last week? It's a 3:30 game.
I don't see it. I just don't. I don't think. Now, I'm not knocking Kiffin, man, but I just don't think that they have the talent that Bama has. Not saying talent wins everything, but there's no way Saban's losing 2 in a row.
I don't think they do either. I think Kiffin puts up a game. I think it's a touchdown game, not a 12-point game. And then he'll be seeing all of them next year once he goes to Auburn. So it doesn't matter. This obviously hasn't been announced, but like everybody and their mother is saying Lane Kiffin to Auburn. So we'll see. I'm with you there. I think Bama's going to win it. We'll go ahead and say in the SEC for the next 2 games, we'll go ahead and knock out Georgia at Mississippi State. Kirby Smart has struggled with air raid offenses in the past. But is that defense elite enough to hold in Will Rogers, who's breaking all kinds of records right now?
Yeah, I just saw he passed Dak Prescott. Congrats to him, man. The kid,
And if
he's a
you
gunslinger. He can sling
you
it.
remember Prescott at Mississippi State, like he was electric.
Oh yeah. Uh Man, I don't know. It's hard to bet against Georgia after what they did to Jalen Hyatt and
Yep.
Hendon Hooker. I'm gonna stick with that defense, man. I just think Georgia they're playing at the caliber that everybody expect them to play, so I don't see them.
I'm going to mark it as a trap game because Mike Leach, I love him as a coach. I think he's the most ridiculous person in the world. And Kirby Smart has struggled with air raid passes or offenses in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised if the game's close, but I think you're right. I think the three tight end monster there with uh, Stetson Bennett playing the way that he's playing, that defensive line is not going to move an inch, and that's what LSU did to him was they just bull rushed him and game was over. So I'm with you with Georgia there, and then we got South Carolina at Florida. Florida just they dominated the whole game from
Dude,
start to finish. Anthony Richardson played well. Their running backs played well. Their defense played really well. I'm going
Florida has
Florida.
been so
I'd rather have Shane Beamer as my coach than Billy Napier, but I trust Richardson more than I trust Radler.
this is a hard one for me because
8-point
every
favorites.
time
It's at the Swamp too.
I mean I'm gonna take Florida, but when I do pick them, they get their
Yeah.
asses kicked.
Well, that's me whenever
You
I
know what I'm
pick against
saying?
TCU, so it's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I almost I don't know, man. Something's
It's
telling
it
me,
is
but I'm gonna
it's
stick with Florida.
I think it'll be a good game. I love Shane Beamer. He's got those boys in South Carolina believing in something. They're 6-3. Like they're having a good record. I don't think they're as good as their record. I think they're more of a 500 team. Um, but Billy Napier needs this win. Like he needs this win, just like last week he needed that win. Because Florida coming up, their next games is Vanderbilt, which will be easy, but they're going to lose to Florida State. So they need to win one of the next three to get bowl eligible. But I think he needs to go 7-5 his first year for the cynics to not come out, and then Urban Meyer's 2 years from
Yeah.
now. Like, because Dan Mullen, if you're gonna hate on Billy Napier for going 6-6, why did you fire a great coach in Dan Mullen who did not have that bad of a record?
He didn't have a bad right? He just had one bad season.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, every
yeah.
coach is going to have that.
Well, there's been rumors out there that I've been seeing over the last 2 weeks is that Urban's coming back in 2 years. They're just going to blow him out of water with an offer. So,
Who to Florida? Urban
if
Meyer.
yeah, 2 years from now, if they're
Um,
smart, I'd be going
yeah.
if
Let me
I was
guess.
any if I was
Deion
any
Sanders.
yeah if I was any team looking for a head coach right now, my butt would be throwing everything at Deion Sanders. Like
One
I
hundred
would
percent.
I would throw everything on him. Look, I'll buy you a mansion. I'll buy you beachfront property, like whatever you want, because he's already stolen recruits from big name schools to go to an HBU school. Not saying that those schools aren't bad because their football is fun to watch. Like Jackson State is insanely fun to
No,
watch,
no,
but
and I can tell you what, them kids they play.
right.
They play
But
hard
it just
every
makes
down.
sense if you get Dion in the building, probably the greatest athlete of all time, in my opinion, but top three cornerback in the NFL of all time. Like he's going to teach you how to be a good NFL cornerback, and if they have a good
Yeah, you
defense, like they're going to win the SEC
everybody.
because the SEC is turning into the Big 12 with the offenses.
I can tell you what, man. Dion, he's got it going on down there at Jackson State. Like I said, I watched some of their game. I think it was
They're
last weekend.
when they played Southern when
Dude,
game day was there. I watched that game and
yeah,
like holy smokes!
dude, they play. I mean, it's fun to watch them play because I
And
mean they
his
air
kid's
it
not a
out.
bad quarterback either.
No, I mean dude, the offense is just so sporadic. You mean you
Yeah.
sitting there on third down, you're like, okay, well this is a pass, and then he pulls it off with a draw play.
Yeah,
mean,
or he
like I
throws
said,
the or he
I
throws the
enjoy it.
ball 40 yards downfield with perfect placement.
Oh, without a doubt, man. That's what I'm saying. I'd like to see Prime get a shot. I think he can take a lot of good talent with him when he goes. I mean,
Yeah.
they can get in the transfer portal.
I don't think it'll be Florida, unfortunately. If it's going to be any team this year, it'll be either Georgia Tech or Auburn. But that also brings me to FSU. If the FSU keeps losing, they've lost how many in a well besides last week, right, or 2 weeks ago when they beat Georgia Tech, but they're not looking good. So they had a bad year last
And they
year.
look good.
They
They
would be
look good
stupid
against
not to.
Miami, though.
Yeah, but they'd be stupid not to hire Dion if that job ever comes out.
Well,
Alumni, but
let me ask this: even if let's say Prime says he's ready to leave Jackson State, do you think they kick Norvell out the door, even though he had a winning record?
yes, easily, yes, yeah,
Really?
yes. They would pay him everything. They'd be in debt for a couple of years because they'd have to pay Dion and pay out the contract. But if you're going to have the hottest coach possible, who's doing things in 3 years that he's been there, 2 years that he's been there that no coach has ever done before, like
Didn't he turn that program around?
yeah, yeah, they went from
Yeah.
like one of the worst schools in the SWAC division to losing. I think they lost like one game last year, although they didn't look good in the playoffs. But this year, I think they have one or two losses. I mean, they got the
Oh,
number
they
one
have lost this year.
receiver, number one cornerback. Like, if he's recruiting like that, Dion will be able to hire somebody to run the offenses and defenses.
Oh
So,
yeah, he
I
would
mean, I
just be the
would,
overseer.
but then again, it's all about the money, and Florida State might not do that. They might wait a couple years to do it, but the longer they wait, the bigger the paycheck's going to be.
Oh yeah, especially if he
So
just keeps winning down there at Jackson State like he is.
yeah, so you had Florida there.
Yeah, I got
Okay.
Florida.
All right, let's go up to the Big Ten real quick. Easy game, I think. It's at Penn State. Penn State's 10-point favorites over Maryland. I had high hopes for Maryland. They played against Michigan really well, but at Penn State, I'm not picking against Penn State at Penn State.
I'm taking Penn State on that one.
I think they need this win for Franklin. I mean, he needs to turn that program around like he had first couple years. Penn State needs to get back to where they were when Joe Pa was running it. We'll go Kansas State at Baylor. This is, I believe, for the number 2 spot in the Big 12, right behind, tied with Texas, and right behind um no, not tied for Texas. This will be number 2 spot. Loser will be tied with Texas if they win, and then one behind TCU. So Baylor at Kansas State. Baylor's favored by. I'm sorry, Kansas State at Baylor. Baylor's favored by 2.5. I'll go ahead and knock this
Man,
one out.
yeah,
I liked what the K-State's coach is doing there, but their luck has run out. They got a good quarterback next year after Martinez left with that Howard kid because he can sling the rock and he's not afraid to get his body hurt. But I think Baylor, the last couple of weeks, Baylor's kind of put their foot down, and I'm picking Baylor to win. But I can see
yeah.
Kansas State
I'm
winning.
taking.
That defense is good, but at Baylor,
I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, they're another team too that
yeah,
I thought once they got in the top 25 that Kansas State was going to be consistent. And then you pick them one week and they get smacked in the mouth.
yeah,
Um, I don't know, man. I think Baylor is starting to come around to the team that we thought they were at the
yeah.
beginning of the
Shapen's
year.
playing really well right now.
Yeah, so I'm taking Baylor on that one.
Yeah. I
I think
I
Dave
mean
Miranda's
that
got
one
it
was
going
probably
now.
the toughest one for me to pick, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah,
Okay, so the next game we'll go ahead and finish with an American Conference, so we'll do the ACC game next. We got UNC at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is favored by 3.5 points. I'll go ahead and say it, and you can just say I agree with you. I think UNC's in the boat racing. I think they're going to win by more than 5 points, more than 10 points, especially after last week. I Drake May is he's putting up insane numbers, like insane numbers. If they ever get a defense, the
You
ACC is in
picking?
trouble.
You said you picking Carolina.
Yeah, I'm picking Carolina.
Shame on you. I'm going Wake.
I was giving you the chance where you didn't
I
have to say that name, and you could have said I agree. But
something's telling me, man, that Sam Hartman had a bad game last week. He had a bad game against Louisville. I
yeah,
think some of their stuff got exposed. But the only thing with Wake is, man, is they had some tough calls the other night that won't pass interference, which is, I mean, it
it's
was tough, tough
name
game.
another
But I
team
think they,
who's had to deal with it any time this year. You can name all 131.
oh yeah, but I don't see Hartman losing 3 in a row. I think he bounces back this week. I think
Yeah.
he's going to get a little bit more consistent. I think his secondaries will still play hard and play the wide receivers hard.
I don't think Hartman's the issue
Wake can
because
just
he's
get
been
a running
putting up
game.
insane numbers too this year. I don't think Hartman's the issue. I think it's the athletes around Hartman. Oh. While we're waiting for him to connect, just to kind of finish that statement. Hartman's one of the top NFL prospects. I don't think he was the issue. We'll see if we got him back here, Andrew. Yeah, so what I was saying
Yeah,
was
I'm back.
before he lost connection there, is like I don't think Hartman was the issue. I think he's had a good year, even playing hurt and coming back with everything. I think it's just the
Yeah.
team around him isn't as good as what everybody thought.
Yeah, I mean, dude, he's got some talented receivers, man. My God, they're tall, they're lengthy, they can catch, they can run. I mean, I don't know. I think Wake's defense steps it up this week, like it did against Clemson and the rest of
Yeah.
the teams in the ACC. So I think Wake it's at Wake too. So
Yeah,
and like I
it's
said,
that way.
that's another North Carolina rivalry too. So
It's gonna be a shootout. I think the over
oh
under is
yeah,
at like 76 points, which is insane.
uh, if they can contain Drake May and get some pressure on him, I think it's going to be a different ballgame.
Yeah. And then the last one, we'll finish off with the American Conference. I believe, if I remember correct, this is probably like to determine who wins the season outright. Before the game, it's UCF at Tulane. Tulane is favored by 2 points. Are you riding with me in the green wave, my friend? At Tulane is a whole nother animal.
Yeah, I don't. The only thing that gets me, man, is Gus Malzahn
Oh,
always can
UCF's
pull.
good. UCF's good, but Tulane is
Yeah,
just dog walking people this year, especially at home.
I think I'm going to take Tulane on that one. I'd like to see them win it.
I do too. And I want them, I want conversation of them to be in like one of the New Year's Six Bowls. Like, I want them to have a shot. So, all right, cool. So we have everything for this week here. I'm gonna go over some locks and then just chime in if you want. Notre Dame Navy over 41.5 points. I think Notre Dame destroys them. Pitt -4 to beat UVA. I think UVA is straight garbage. And I think
They
Pitt
can't move the
is,
ball.
yeah, I think Pitt's just that running back that Pitt has is amazing. I love him. I can't say his last name, but I love him. He runs hard. Nebraska and Michigan over 49 points. It's going to be a cold one there. It's going to be windy. But the only way Nebraska wins is if it's a shootout, and if Nebraska loses, it's because Michigan defense is doing really well and their offense is just running the ball like crazy. Then I have Iowa, Wisconsin over 35 points. I took that because it's 35 points, and the way Iowa's put up over 20 points the last 2 games, I think that it's possible. And then NC State and BC over 42 points. The line is like 19.5, but I think the way that MJ Morris is throwing the ball, I love it. I'm a fan. Like what I've seen him do. I think that offense figures it out and gets better again. And then I think BC, like you said, I think they keep it somewhat close. I think it's within 10 points or right around that 10-point mark. So I think it'll be over 42. And then one that if I put it on the Instagram post, guys, that's where it's at. But what I'm thinking about doing is having Auburn -2 over Texas A&M. Maybe you can convince me of that. Do you think Auburn beats Texas A&M? It's at
It depends
Auburn.
on it depends on what Auburn team shows. If they play like they did last
Cadillac
week,
Williams is the interim coach, and that boy is firing everybody up on the sidelines. I don't know if you saw
yeah.
that last week. And I love
No,
Cadillac
I
Williams.
didn't
He
get
was
a
a great
chance.
Auburn
Oh,
running
dude,
back.
my God, he could
Great.
truck some people, man.
He was a great running back in the NFL for years. Like, I'm a fan, and I'm riding the hype train. So, do you think they're going to beat Texas A&M, man? It's at Auburn.
They have a darn good shot, man. I'd take it.
I'm going to put that as my lock, so I'll have 6 locks this week as well.
I think that's going to be Cadillac's first win. He's going to beat them. But
yeah. Did they win last week? No, they lost.
no, they lost in overtime.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing Cadillac get a shot. Maybe not this go around for Auburn, but I don't think he's leaving there. They'd be stupid to get rid of him as a coach.
No, if Kiffin does get the job and he gets rid of Cadillac, man, that's dumb. He's got too many ties to Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, and he was great for Auburn too.
I mean, he also recruited Tank Bixley too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, well, that's the show for us. Next week, we're gonna go ahead and put it into the world that we're gonna talk about the most impressive teams this year, most disappointing teams of this year. We'll have reaction of the games this week. 2 more weeks of the regular, after this, 2 more weeks of the regular season, and then we're going bowling. Everybody, we'll have a month full of bowl games. We'll still do our show weekly. Some of the bowl games that we'll pick, we have no idea who those teams are because it'll be like UConn, who could potentially get into a bowl game if they win one of their 3 games remaining.
I hope they do, man, for Jim Moore's sake. Yeah.
I'm worried that somebody's going to poach Jim Moore. I wouldn't mind that UConn becoming a powerhouse up there, getting all like the transfers of the kids who came from up there and went to the SEC schools and couldn't cut it and coming back.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Well, thank you guys for joining us here. A little bit shorter of an episode than the last couple, but remember to like, share, comment, be a friend, tell a friend. And if you didn't like anything that we've said, don't leave a comment. Don't tell anybody. Keep it on the download for everybody else. All right, guys. See you next week.